Okay, so did you try it or did you just click on the next video? We know that we want to end up with feet per second. Okay, so we know that that means I want to start out with something over here that has feet in the numerator. So I'm going from miles per hour. That doesn't have feet in there anywhere. My hours need to become seconds. My miles need to become feet. Okay, so what we need to do is pull in a little bit of inside information. This is something that I will always give you if you don't know it. We have 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Okay, that's just something that's always true, and it's going to connect my feet that I want to end up with to something I'm talking about in this, which is miles. Like I wouldn't want to switch feet to inches, because inches has nothing to do with what I'm doing, right? Okay, so now if I don't want miles in my answer, I want miles up here. So think about, what do I know that also has to do with miles? Well, it's our speed, right? 5 miles in 1 hour. And this cancels out miles. Okay. Now, what can I do with hours? Well, I'm kind of out of information. Like, this is the only information for my specific problem, but I still need to convert hours down to seconds. So think about how hours and seconds are related. Generally easiest to go 2 steps for that, right? So we're going to go 1 hour is 60 minutes, and then 1 minute is 60 seconds. So if you have any concerns about what we did there, stop and either look it over or kind of rewind the video and go back, right? Because we need to make sure we understand how we're converting this in our dimensional analysis. So we've gotten where we need to be for the units now. Okay, we've gotten feet over seconds. So I'm going to multiply, and so I'm going to do it down here, just so I have some space. And we don't always write out exactly what we're multiplying, but I want to do it in this case, just so we see. So we're multiplying 5,280 times 5. Let me do this in a darker marker here. And in the denominator, I'm multiplying 60 times 60. Everything else is 1, so I don't need to include it. Okay, so I get on here, I seem to have not brought my calculator down, but that's okay. So go ahead and multiply that on your calculator. I will do it on here on my computer. So we have 5,280 times 5 is 26,400. And 60 times 60 is 3,600. So right now I have 26,400 feet in 3,600 seconds, which is true. Okay, totally true, valid statement. This is really saying this is how many feet are in 5 miles, and this is how many seconds are in an hour. But again, this doesn't really mean a lot to us. We want a unit rate. We want to know how many feet in 1 second. So if I divide that, we round to the nearest hundredth, I'm going to get 7.33 feet per second. So 5 miles an hour. My speedometer says 5 miles an hour. We know it's pretty slow. Every second we're traveling 7.33 feet. Okay, so remember, why did we do that? We did that because if we're going to plug into this formula, then we need to have our units here in feet and seconds. So I needed feet per second. So now I can substitute this in for v sub 0. So my d, my distance, is v sub 0, which is 7.33 squared over 54.74. Now I don't really need the 7.33 in parentheses because it's positive, but I just kind of did it. I don't know why. I just did it. It's fine. It doesn't change anything. So square this divide by 54.74 and see what you get. Okay, so you're multiplying this. Divide by 54.74. If we round to the hundredth again, 2 decimal places, and remember our unit is feet, we should get 0.98 feet. Okay, so what does that mean? That means if we're traveling 5 miles an hour, and I hit the brakes with, remember our friction of coefficient of friction is really pretty good. It's 0.8, so it means we have good tires, good road, right? With that specific situation, if I hit the brakes, my car travels a little bit less than a foot, so about a foot before it stops. So it can stop pretty quickly. Okay, so if you remember, our question that we're trying to investigate is what happens to our braking distance when we double the speed. So I put a couple numbers up here. We're going to do 10 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, and 40 miles per hour. So you can see each of these doubles. So we have a couple different things to look at when we get done. So let's think through what we need to do. Well, we're going to take a speed and plop it in here every time. But I can't do that until my speed is in feet per second instead of miles per hour. So I have to do this conversion up here. Now, the nice thing about having any kind of a formula or a conversion kind of set up like this is that I don't have to redo everything every time. I don't have to reinvent everything. I'm not asking you every time you come up with a speed to go out into your lab and figure out how this is going to work with the road. We have this formula. All you have to do is substitute in this number. Same idea up here, okay? Now let's look at this for just a second. I had a conversion between feet and miles. I had our speed. I had a conversion between hours and minutes. I had a conversion between minutes and seconds. If you look at those 4 conversions, 3 of them are always true. There's always an hour in 60 minutes, or 60 minutes in an hour. There are always 60 seconds in a minute. There are always 5,280 feet in a mile. Those had nothing to do with our specific situation. Those are just conversions that helped us along the way. So these 3 will be there always. What's the only number that's going to change from here to here? Well, it's this right here. And the reason I wrote out what we did next is because if you look at the next line, 5,280 is going to be times whatever our mileage is, but the bottom, the denominator, does not change. So these things that I have circled in green will change, right? I put a different number in here, which goes here. I multiply those 2 new numbers. I'm going to get a new number here. I'm going to get a new number here. Those things will change, but that's it. So you do not have to create that whole string for dimensional analysis every time. Just use what you have, pop this out, put your next one in, and then figure it out, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to give you time. You take time to do these 3 rows. So you take the 10 miles per hour, you use this to figure out how many feet per second is. That goes here. Once I know feet per second, I plug it in here, square it, divide it, that goes here. Okay, and then we'll talk about those in just a minute. So finish filling out that chart, and then you can check your answers.